humble salutations at Bhagavan's lotus feet. Loving Sai-Ram to all of you. After Swami attained Mahasamadhi, this ardent devotee visited various temples in India. When asked to comment about the visit, his reply was, "When I was in Swami's physical presence, I saw all deities in him. Now I see Swami in all deities." This simple yet profound statement explains how he saw only Swami in his life and continues to see Swami in everything. He had a very illustrious career in the prestigious Indian Administrative Service and was gifted with the wisdom when given an opportunity to choose Swami over the world. As a living example of Karma Yogi, he continues to serve Bhagavan, currently as the chairman of Sri Sathya Sai Global Council. Those who are familiar with Kathopanishad, like Nachiketa, he chose Shreyas over praise. Brothers and sisters, I have the unique and exemplary honor of my life to present Sri Chakravarthi, who will be delivering a very short message. I thank Swami, who has made it possible to elevate all of us through this message. I am confident in the spiritual path from being God lovers to God knowers. Jai Sai Ram.
My salutations at the lotus feet of Bhagwan. Dear Dr. Sri Chakravarthi and fellow devotees who are attending Mid-Atlantic Region Retreat, Sai Ram to you all. We've all been brought to Swami by a force about which we know little. We can narrate what can pass off as a certain sequential happening. But the why of such happening will continue to baffle us. Each one of us can recall the day on which our eyes beheld the captivating form of Bhagwan. Perhaps even minute details we can recall. Its relevance in the vast scheme of things will elude us, however much we explore. That will remain a mystery. It could not have happened earlier or later, but at that precise moment, there is no clue for us. We can only attribute it to God's appointed hour. While it happened, it may appear as our choice of time and place. But in the sweep of eternity, that particular moment can only be called as a happenstance. Do I attribute it to some mysterious destiny? Is there a preset path through which we travel? How much of choice is left with us? Is there a destiny that shapes our ends, rough them how we will, as Shakespeare mused? We carry on our daily activities without ever pausing to reflect on them. Activities, physical and mental, engage us, and before we know, the day has passed. The tenor of daily life settles down to a repetitive pattern. All that I have stated is so when we have not been blessed with an awareness of the presence and power. But when we have become the recipients of the blessings of the divine presence, everything around us takes on a different hue. We see with our eyes the wonders of creation, hear with our ears the melody floating. There is music in the heart, and we are overpowered by a strange harmony around us. At other times, we feel that everything around us gets still and time seems suspended. What I have said is experience that we have been blessed with in this hallowed place, Prashanti Nilayam. that is gently trodden upon by the gliding feet of Bhagwan. My visit to Prashanti Nilayam, ordained as it were in 1975 by Bhagwan, has filled me with an experience of a lasting nature. It is nearly 50 years since I had the first darshan of Swami. I was less than half my age then. I could not know then that a good part of my life in this birth would be spent near Swami. The first darshan and subsequent darshans during that year had a feel which I had not experienced until then. It was something like a peep into an unknown world. For all appearance and purposes, there is nothing about me that could be termed different. But somewhere, deep down me, I started feeling that there is something silently altering within me. I could not articulate it. There is a persistent feeling that my view of the world was undergoing a change. There seemed to be a slow shifting of priorities. I've been blessed with a passion for work, physical and intellectual. When I joined government service, it was more than just a decade since our country secured independence from colonial rule. There was so much idealism in the air. Being part of that historical process was exciting, despite periodic disappointments with the course of development in the country. The democratic processes which had informed our governance till then received a rather rude jolt as I settled down in Anantapur district as a district collector. The visit to Prashanti Nilayam to have darshan of Bhagwan in that broad background of Indian economic development and political governance were indeed a different experience. I learned that it is necessary to understand one's own spiritual essence while living an active life in the world we inhabit. Although I wrestle with questions about the meaning or lack of it in the world around me, and also the conflicting views of the world, depending upon whether we consider individual growth or collective well-being as a priority, I did not think that it is possible to harmonize these and find a balanced view. For the first time, I learned from Swami that there is no need to view life in the world as being material or spiritual. In fact, Swami said, everything is spiritual, even routine day-to-day functions such as eating, walking, talking, etc. If one thinks of God and carry out our tasks with an awareness that all such work is an offering to God. Like many people, I'd also entertained the view that to be spiritual means an abnegation of all desires. But listening to Swami's discourses, I slowly started to understand that balance is required in one's life, and that balance is an outcome of treating all that happens is for the good of oneself. The world as it is an admixture of good and bad, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain. There's nothing exclusively as joy or pain, and there's always the obverse. The nature of the world is dichotomous, and therefore it is necessary to develop an outlook which helps to manage the contrast. To be spiritual, Swami explained, is easy, just as it is easy to let go. To hold calls for effort, but to let go is effortless. Sharing the pain halves its sharing. The joy doubles it. A peculiar arithmetic, he says. Nature and God are simple to understand, he says. It is men who complicate it. Comprehending them through intellect is difficult, but understanding them through heart is easy. It's our experience that as we walk by during darshan, our thoughts got suspended. There is stillness within. The world is lost to us. It is as though the world perspective before us got filled by his presence. Mind is like a mad monkey, Swami used to remind us. But such a monkey used to get transfixed as he stood before us. From morning to night, his life was spent in doing good to others, near and far. The evidence we could get only when those fortunate ones narrated to us their experiences. But I never heard Swami mentioning any one of those innumerable life-saving or life-giving or life-enhancing experiences which are given to his devotees. Perhaps it is because that we attribute as miracles of the very natural substance of what he is. Swami taught us that our life will acquire meaning once we start understanding that life is given so as to secure knowledge which helps us to avoid any future life. The nature of human life is such that it comes and goes, as is the literal meaning of the word Jagat, that is coming and going, as Swami put it. It is possible that many devotees would have embarked upon such an inward journey which may not be evident to others, but only to themselves and Bhagavan. As to how far they have travelled with him, only Bhagavan will be able to certify. To make us aware that the world within is indeed a vast space, and to reign in that space is far more difficult but fulfilling, is a gift that only Bhagavan should grant. To have the mind focused and the heart directed towards that which assures lasting happiness will be a lifelong silent pursuit. And those who have been blessed by Bhagavan to take the first steps towards the final consummation would rather be silently pursuing than proclaiming their first. Bhagavan made us appreciate the wisdom of those who built the foundation of Bharat, not on things external, but on the spirit and the inner mind and the spiritual oneness. We will witness the march of technology in fields such as artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, travel to and colonization of Mars. And yet, outlasting it all will be the unyielding spirit and soul. We had the great good fortune of having Bhagavan with us during the greater part of 20th century and the first decade of this century. Swami's narration of epics was so evocative. We got the sense that the incident said to have happened centuries ago took on an immediate color and presence. And the principal actor, be it Rama or Krishna, was brought to us lifelike. And soon we were transported to that long vanished world, and Bhagavan himself became the image of those divine persona. He was seen not as an actor, but as the one who has recreated himself. It's also as though the participants of those faraway days have been brought before us, and for a while we felt that we were in the presence of those historic characters. Most of all, it is so, especially with reference to Lord Krishna. The indescribable presence was seen as then and now. Centuries dissolved before our eyes, and the eternal took on a magical now and here. Bhagavan himself provided the unbreakable link between the past persona and the present one. Krishna and Swami were seen as one. Was it a past scene brought before our eyes, or was it really a replay of timeless characters? We are in this world, and yet we are transported to another world. Are they imaginary structures of truths of supra-physical existence? We see through our mortal eyes a glimpse of the ineffable absolute. Our normal human existence is tied in some mysterious ways to the divine existence. Our life moves between two worlds, the depths upon depths of our inward being and the surface field of our outer nature, as Sri Aurobindo says. And when Swami used certain occasions to vividly picturize the divine life of Krishna, we felt that it was an attempt to draw the whole being upward, to spiritualize life, and in the end, to divinize human nature. His physical presence filled us with great joy. At times, we heard his voice sounding like the tinkling of bells, sometimes like the thunder of the sky, and felt sometimes like the gentle caressing of the mother. His walk was like floating on air, gentle but purposeful. His stride measuring the earth and the sky, his hand shaping the destiny of man. His smile beatific and uplifting, his voice a gentle, mellifluous music wafting through the hollow of a flute, his blessings like a shower of petals of roses. When he walked by, we were wrapped in the warmth of his being. As we are highly conscious of such sweet experiences in the world, we also are reminded by Bhagwan we have to become recipients of our own inner experiences to the Godhead, powers, self-existence of the one whom the sages speak variously. A famous phrase oft quoted by Bhagwan from the Vedas regarding its central secret, Ekam Sat Vipra Bhada Vadanti. Seeing him with one-pointed attention was to become aware of one existence, the transcendent Godhead, and his relation with things and creatures in this cosmic manifestation. It was possible for us to move from gaining knowledge to spiritual love and delight, and we could understand the emotional and ecstatic aspects of living with the divine. Whatever he said had a ring of authenticity. The simple and profound truths he expressed were not of this age alone. They expressed the throbs of our souls through ages. The distance between the professed claims and the actual truth was brought out by him, as when he said, we speak of ushering in peace, but we also plan for war. He points out to the incongruousness of holding an atomic bomb in our hand and raising cries of peace. At this point in time, it has a relevance and resonance, and is a vivid expression of troubled times. The need for thought, word, and deed to be congruous at all times was brought to our attention time and time again. To think, to tell, and to act, all reinforcing each other, he used to say, is a sign of greatness. To think one thing, say another, and do yet another, is a sign of evildoer. Ages may pass, seasons may change, but he is of all ages, and is a constant in all changes. Through all changes, he represents the unchanging. He is nearest to us, and yet he eludes our understanding. He is distant from us because his space and time are beyond our comprehension. Bhagwan was like yourself and myself, but only to sight, touch, and hearing. In all other ways, he was unlike us. He was among us, yet not one with us. But he kept reminding us, I am God. You are also God. I know I am God, only you do not know you are God. It is all a deceptively easy way of describing the Upanishadic statement that I am Brahman. We beheld his splendor, and his freshness was the same in the evening as it was in the morning. It was like a flower which never wilted, and this even as was engaged in attending to all the work of a mundane nature and also work of uplifting humanity. Never a day when he was not besieged by the devotees who poured their hearts out in their letters to him. And more importantly, he read all the letters himself, even though he knew the contents of the letter without having to read them. Day after day, all through the years, sun or rain, his stay with us upon this earth was only for our sake. Darshan was for our joy. Sambhashan was for our joy. Distribution of prasadam was for our joy. Organizing mass Upanayanam was for our joy. The setting up the school, the institute, the hospitals were all for our growth, our welfare, our joy. Every moment of that lofty life was for us. To us, Bhagwan was a historical teacher and also the incarnation of the divine, much as Krishna has been. The divine manifestation has subjected himself to physical suffering. That's because the human limitation must be assumed in order to show how it must be overcome. The avatar of suffering was there with the avatar of joy. The way of overcoming depends on the stage of human advance, and it shall not be done by non-human miracle. The influence of the avatar will persist even when the outward action is concluded in its spiritual influence. He revealed to us the divine nature in man and showed us the divine works, which are universal, impersonal, and disinterested, full of divine love. To the ignorant, he brings the light of divine knowledge. To the weak, the power of his divine will. To the suffering, the spiritual joy. He is at once a great leveler and a great lifter. In him, we found all relations, father, mother, friend, and refuge of the soul. We are led to a realization that nothing in the universe has its real cause in the universe. That all proceeds from the supernal existence. We might oftentimes fail to see Swami with awe and veneration in our careless understanding at the physical, intellectual level. But it was simply a humanized symbol of Godhead, and we have difficulty to grasp the formidable and mighty aspect of his pervasiveness. It is not mere performance of work given by him to us, but the knowledge with which we work that makes immense spiritual significance. I am glad that many of you have been doing Swami's work through your works, and I am sure that you have all been growing in the realization that all the work that you are doing is informed by an inner understanding of the divinity that gives substance to life. There have been many who had the good fortune of taking up Bhagwan's work, but did not stay on in his work. And it is difficult for us to know the reason. But in the broader context of Bhagwan's teaching, we can only conclude that it is due to the limitations of the surface mind. We are not judges of such instances, but it will be necessary for us to remember there is a constant need to check to what extent our work in Bhagwan's institutions is in accord with his teachings, especially in relation to the mental and spiritual discipline. Oftentimes, we become prisoners of our tangled complexity of mind, emotion, desire, and thought. It becomes necessary for us to go back to Bhagwan's teachings and bring to bear upon our work a quiet reflection and humble prayer that we become faultless instruments of divine action. Our continued engagement in his service, in willing servitude, will lead to our spiritual absolute liberty. Swami has told us that he separated himself from himself. The one eternal became the visible and apparent multiplicity. And this vast display of multiplicity, we have to seek the eternal one. We need the heart's vision and mind's experience, and in this fusion, make an attempt to truly learn who Bhagwan is. It cannot be possible to achieve this by our own effort, but guided by his benediction, achievable at some point in our evolution. The Lord could have remained in his transcendence, but he chose to descend as avatar, and he gave us glimpses of his presence in you and me, and ruled us, and still rules us from within. And as he showed us, we must do the works untouched by the limitations of the narrow mind and act for the best good of all. I believe the action asked of us by him shall be such as to truly reflect his own when he was amidst us. It will be an expression of his energy, a selfless and desireless labor. It will be a long cosmic walk with him, in a spirit of constant union with him. Am I asking too much from you, Bhagwan? Perhaps. That's because you have shown me and all others that our destiny is not to be limited to our usual prayers, but to expand, to be able to be the recipients of what you have come to give us. Make us all God workers, admitting us in your love, continuing to worship you, and grow in one spirit with you and your knowledge. We have sought you for consolation and relief. We have sought you for gifts, for protection, for fulfillment of our desires, occasionally for light and knowledge. But help us to grow in spirit, so that we who are imperfect God lovers become true God knowers by the transmuting presence and find our eternal repose in you. Thank you all for your patience in listening. Sai Ram.